Hey everyone, welcome to the Elite Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Popple, along with my co-host, William McClellan. How's it going today, Will?
What up? What up? Really good, man. Super excited for today. Really kind of curious where this one's going to go, because the first time we met this guest,
wild card.
We were just 90-0, talking deals, talking fun, just having a blast. We ended up chatting till late at night.
I think the meetup we went to was supposed to be from like 7 to 8:30, and I think we would stay in the parking lot until after 10.
Yeah. So really excited. So yeah, man. Without further ado, if you want to bring on our guest,
Today we're going to have on Chris Beckman. He's a real estate investor and wholesaling specialist. I want to talk to him the second he was telling me about how he hangs these bandit signs up 15 feet up on a pole. So anyway, Chris was born in 1985, same year as Back to the Future hit theaters. Chris grew up in Las Vegas with his parents, who were performing as top 40 cover band. Early life was spent moving around from casino hotels and stages. Then Chris toured regionally with bands and lived a creative on-the-go lifestyle before moving to Florida in his early 20s to pursue music further. In 2014, he married his wife, and she was the one who kind of helped bring the real estate influence into his life. In 2020 is when they finally purchased a home that needed some renovations, turning the property into a livable investment, and which became a full-time career for Chris. And then by October 2023, Chris transitioned full-time into real estate. Today, he operates a growing real estate investment business that includes a portfolio of long-term and short-term rentals, as well as a dedicated wholesaling company. So without further ado, let's bring on Chris Beckman.
Let's do it.
What's going on, guys?
Man, what's going on, dude?
Good to see you all again.
Yeah, man.
Long time no see.
Yeah,
right?
Dude, it was really great meeting you last night. Like I said, second I walked into Pig, I just was navigated to your into your energy, and and then like I said, I was just hearing the story of I want you to be able to tell the people about how you do the ninja work at night with your ski mask and your we buy houses signs, So, but man, So welcome to the podcast, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you both, and Sam and Will. It was great meeting you both last night. And talking further, I think we've met before, like in the circles here in Escambia County, but never really had a chance to chop it up and get to know each other. So this is really wonderful. Thanks for having me on today.
Nah, man, appreciate you coming on. So you're born in 1985, same year as Back to the Future hit theaters. Now you grew up in Las Vegas. What was that wild start like? What was childhood like growing up around casinos and stages?
Right, it's a little different, man. Before we get there, though, I gotta say I'm really disappointed we don't have hoverboards yet. I mean, what's up with that, right?
Like, Back to the Future live. We're supposed to have so much more.
we got everything else, shoes that lace up or whatever, but we don't have like the hoverboard. So
I know, anyway, that's the coolest thing,
right? I mean, that would be the one thing, but anyway,
maybe the car that takes you back to the future. I don't know.
Yeah, that's funny that you said that. I literally saw a DeLorean 3 days ago driving through East Hill, Pensacola when I was leaving home.
Really?
Yeah.
No way.
I got a little excited, I'm not gonna lie, but I couldn't see who was driving it, so it could have been Doc. We'll never know.
Yeah, it could have.
But
tell us about the childhood,
man. The early days,
growing up, and like where you're from, and where that's led.
Yeah, sure. A little bit of an interesting background, I guess, for some, maybe not for others. But born in Redding, California, but at about 6 months old, my parents moved out to Las Vegas, Nevada, and both of them were musicians at the time. So they moved out there to try to get more exposed to different music. They formed a top 40 group, and they would get booked in showrooms and casinos. So I spent probably the first 8 years of my life or so just helping them haul equipment into casino rooms and occasionally bars. And then at night, my brother and sister and I would have a babysitter, and they'd show up like at 3 a.m. and the next night they go back to work. So I fell asleep a lot of nights to listen to like some of the greats of the early 90s. So can't complain.
Yeah, I can't complain at all, man. That's sick. So all right, music's in your blood. You really love this really cool high energy. I can tell it bleeds into you. So tell us a little bit about like movement, loud environments, creativity, being around people who are who are artistically gifted and things like that, and maybe how that shaped your personality, and then how that also works into work ethic overall in your business now.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I mean, I think it's kind of an interesting question or thing you posed there. It growing up in that kind of environment, as you can imagine, there's a lot of moving around, and so for a lot of my life, I was homeschooled because we had to constantly be on the road. Definitely around a lot of creative people. I think the one constant you could count on was change. Never really put down roots, even though we were in Vegas for a while and lived a few years here, a few years there. I never really put down solid roots. And I think that actually kind of helped. It was a detriment in some ways, but then it was great in others because when you're adapting to change constantly, you just get used to that being the norm. So in real estate, as you know, we got to be creative, and the landscape's always changing. Wholesaling in 2025 is different than in 2024, and it's different than in 2020. And I mean, I haven't been doing real estate nearly as long as some of the guys we mutually know who can speak back to like 2004 and 2008 when they had the housing crisis. But the one thing that I can gather from listening to those stories and then from my own experience is that real estate is a constantly evolving and changing landscape. So I think that really helped, and you have to be creative. There's not really like a one size fits all, right?
Yeah.
In fact, Will, I think you were last night commenting on how you could buy new houses for nothing out of pocket. You got like $15,000 back a year or so ago for just buying a new house. That blew my mind. I mean,
yeah, that was a funny one. Sam and I were actually just talking about that on how he's looking at potentially, moving his primary, and he was like, dude, I'm just trying to make this deal happen. I'm trying to make it happen now.
Yeah, and basically what I'm gonna go around doing is I'm gonna go around asking for 10% back at closing, and then I'm gonna go around trying to use a 5% down conventional one.
Yes, I told my wife about that today. Actually, we're gonna. I think November, December, you're gonna be hearing from me, Will, because I'm gonna call you up and say, all right, we need to put DR Horton in a box here. Tell me what to do.
Really, you like I know a lot of people don't like it, but they have these red tag sales. They offer all these incentives. There's a lot of buybacks. And then the thing that we're all dealing with right now, and is interesting because we just talked about it at a meetup, kind of on the front, no one wants to drop prices. No one wants to drop price per square foot. But it's really important kind of reading the agent notes and staying up to date what's happening in the MLS, because there's a lot of seller concessions that are happening now, like tens of thousands of dollars. So on the front end and in the property appraiser, you might be putting together a deal on a flip, and in that same area, there are some sales that are moving. There may be not any expired listings, but the reason they're moving, especially if you're in an area of new construction, crazy incentives that are happening right now. Like, I mean, 2.5 point rate buy downs. You have pretty much everyone's putting $10,000 towards closing. It seems like that's like almost becoming a standard for a buyer. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. But yeah, definitely hit me up in November. I know I'll be looking for sure.
I think I'm going to try to make that a yearly thing. I mean, if I can try to score 1 or 2 houses a year, I mean, think about that for anybody who's listening who wants to get into investing. Really think about that. You can get a brand new house that will cash flow. You might only make like 130 to 150, something modest a month in cash flow, but you have somebody else paying down a note on a new house with new systems that are under warranty. So you can kind of get your feet wet and ease into the pool without having to worry about tenants calling you up right away saying, hey, everything's broken.
You're just in the state of Florida where you have an average appreciation of around 7% a year, over a 10-year perion.
So, can you imagine that 10 years where Will's going to be on these houses?
Yeah, dude. He, like I said, so in the time I've known him, like this is about our third year of friendship, and he's 2 for 2 on year 1 and 2. So this is year 3 of him going to be closing the third one.
Yeah, I'm excited, and I keep this. The thing is I like doing business with people that bring me deals and understand it. So I stay in contact with that same realtor that was working there that I did the first deal with, which she was pretty new. She'd only been with Horton for about 60 days. So she was not too sure about the red tag sale. And then come back a year later, I was like, hey, I know we talked like only once or twice this year, but it's about that time. You got any deals? And she's like, I do. I've got this, and this. And I actually just pinged her maybe last week saying, hey, what's the next 6 months kind of looking like? Where are we looking? Because for me, my properties are on the northwest side of town. So ideally trying to be there. And that's where a lot of the growth is, just because that's where a lot of the land is. So probably sticking in that area, even though there's a lot of growth kind of moving throughout all of Pensacola. But dude, lots of fun. But back to you. We got to get back to you. This is about you.
All right.
You moved to California, you got into music more seriously, toured regionally, even worked in a dental tech and sales. So, can you walk us through those years, what it taught you, and how that ultimately shaped you into the entrepreneur that you are today?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't. It would be remiss of me to not give credit where credit is due. Around 8 years old or so, my parents moved to California, and probably around 9 or 10, that's when I met Jesus, and I got baptized actually and became a Christian. So I kind of got introduced into some influences that were a little different than you would imagine in the casino scene. And we were up in a small town at that point, Humboldt County, California. The redwoods are up there. So you got hippies and all kinds of stuff up there still. Rasta hair is huge, but I got involved with some really good folks. Having the
Rasta hair?
Rasta, yeah.
Okay.
Humboldt County.
Reds, it's the Rasta.
It's for the green,
Yeah, that's right. They don't call it the Emerald Triangle for nothing. So, it definitely an interesting spot, and totally opposite of Vegas when you think about it. Just even from a geographical, kind of stance, we went from being in the desert and watching casinos conquer the next sandhill to we were on a house that was on 1,400 acres of redwoods, and I mean, it just total night and day. It was wild, bad. Yeah, really cool. So we got to kind of bond as a family more so then. And my interest in music never really died. But I'd become a Christian. So I actually became interested at the time in Christian music. And so later on in my life, I'd form a band. And then we ended up, we were managed and booked out of Nashville, Tennessee. And we just toured a lot of the West Coast, opening and playing at different festivals and church youth groups, different events. We played a Raiders versus 49ers. It was like an informal fire department game down in Central California. I'll tell you a real quick funny story about that. They had my band play during halftime, and one of the things they asked us to do was sing the national anthem before all the football players came out. So I was the lead singer of the band, so I sang the national anthem, and they wanted us to also put on music when the players started running out. So my brother, who's a few years younger than me, decided he would put on Green Day, American Idiot. So you literally come off the Pledge of Allegiance or the Star Spangled Banner, whatever, and people still have their hands over their heart, and the first words out over the speakers, "Don't want to be an American idiot." And you just see this guy who's 6'5", he's putting this whole thing on. He's like what you would, I guess, call the coach, and he's running across all the way from across the field, and he's going like this: "Turn off the music! Turn off the music!" His tie's flying in the wind. People in the stands are going boo, boo. I mean, it's not the greatest moment in our band's life, but we had a long ways to come back for that performance, I'll tell you. But totally.
What was the name of your band?
That band was called Relentless Pursuit.
Relentless Pursuit. That's awesome, dude. That's awesome.
So they were really good times. But yeah, California, we actually transitioned in that band down to Southern California. And I was working dental technology as well. As a teenager growing up, my dad got into dental technology, opened up his own dental lab. So instead of going out and getting a traditional job, I started working in the lab at about 14 years old. And I started just basically doing deliveries for the lab, learning the technical skills. And then at about 17, I moved into sales for the lab to pick up more accounts and stuff like that, and kind of just kept all the day jobs I worked while being a musician seemed to be sales oriented.
Yeah. So tell us. So you were in Vegas, went out to the Redwoods, and then kind of from there, you kind of made that area home base. I know you said that at the beginning that you're always used to this constant change. You're homeschooled, never really built those roots. But did that kind of create some sort of roots, or because you were traveling so much? I think you said you guys were actually managed out of Nashville, right? And
Yeah,
then West Coast. So that's probably a ton of moving pieces, a ton of, a lot of nights in the hotel or on a bus or whatever. So kind of walk us through there after you guys kind of settled in Humboldt County, and then
sure.
what kind of happened, building the band, things like that.
I think about 3 or 4 years after moving to Humboldt County. No, it had to have been, I was 13. So 6 years. I guess what is that? 5? Terrible with math today, guys. So 5 years later, we moved to Clear Lake, which is in Central California. It's actually California's biggest natural lake. Also California's grossest natural lake because of all the hydrogen and mercury in the water, but different story for different podcast. And that's actually where I started getting really interested in kind of punk rock music, which is really like sort of anti-government and not the first thing you would put with Christian music, but I thought, why not smash the two together and make something fun? So we did it. And it just ended up kind of taking off. And pretty soon we were getting calls to go all over. And then we're talking.
I was going to say, Christians don't have to love their government. I don't.
That's right. Who is more anti-establishment than Jesus, right? I mean, that guy. Yeah. So I love it. He rattled the chains of the priests in those days. So, but we moved around and we a little bit in that time, and then down to San Diego. So I don't think I ever spent more than 3 or 4 years in one spot. And then definitely when we started playing, it was constantly gone. I mean, there wasn't a weekend we weren't gone, and then sometimes a few days during the week, kind of depending on what we had going on at the time. But yeah, definitely a lot of travel, a lot of fun though.
Yeah, and so you guys were touring around for how many years?
Probably, let's see, with Relentless, we probably did that like 5 or 7 years, something like that. That was a good amount. And then I actually ended up moving back to Las Vegas after living in San Diego, and that's when
Wait, so you went to Clear Lake to San Diego?
Yeah, and then back out to Las Vegas. Technically Santa Cruz, back up to Santa Cruz. I was actually in Santa Cruz for about 3 months, and I got it. My dad had moved out to Las Vegas, and my dad called me and he said, "Man," and I was hungry in Santa Cruz, guys. I was broke at that time in my life. Rent was very expensive. I was working 2 jobs, and I called up my dad and he goes, "Yeah, I'm in Vegas." He moved out there to take care of my grandmother who'd had a stroke, along with my mother, and he told me I should move out. I said, "No, I don't want to leave California." He says, "Well, let's have I'm eating a basket of chicken wings I got for $2, and the beers here are like $3." So I was like, "So you tell me you can get a beer and chicken wings for $5?" And so that was pretty much it. I packed up my Chevy 1986 Chevy Celebrity and went. But
that's a good reason to go.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. I met my future band, New World Martyr, out there through Craigslist and a funeral, and we ended up getting together.
Take me through that.
It actually sounds better than it really is. But I was at that time, Relentless Pursuit, my original band, had disbanded, and so I got on Craigslist just seeing what was going on in the arts community because I thought I wanted to start doing music again. And I met a drummer whose uncle was the drummer for REO Speedwagon, and he was and it was crazy. He wanted to put together like a pop punk band, and he had some Christian roots, and so I thought, oh, this might be a match. And he still is a heck of a drummer. He lives back out in Las Vegas again, and plays out there still. But from there, we actually met. His father worked at a funeral home, and so he was at a funeral one day when he met the bass player, and he saw the bass player had a guitar pick necklace on, and the bass player was in a band out in Florida. His uncle lived in Vegas, and with a guy named Kevin Morse, whose father is Steve Morse from Deep Purple, also played in Kansas, the Dixie Dregs, some of these other older bands. Nobody in my age bracket or younger would probably listen to these guys. Smoke on the Water would be the one from Deep Purple. Most people would probably know. But we all decided, hey, let's put a band together, and we ended up moving out to Florida from that. So
that's like a perfect tee up because I was gonna get like, how'd you get back here? Here as in the Panhandle of Florida, and what drew you here? So it seems like music again, leading you in that right path over here to the Sunshine State. So where did your life kind of shift? I mean, because that's a major move from Vegas to Florida.
And what year was that? Just so we got the timeline.
It would have been approximately 2014, I think.
Okay.
Because that was the same year I think I got married. I got married and moved the same year because I met my wife in Vegas in a side project. I was in a little producer wanted to put together this kind of pop rap project with background dancers, not in my wheelhouse. I was in rock bands, but he called me up and said it'd just be a side thing. And so I said, yeah, I'll do it because he's going to handle all the studio time, photographs, whatever. So I didn't have to contribute anything besides my creativity. So I said, okay, I'll do it. And as a side project, he promised it wouldn't interfere with my main stuff, and that he hired this knockout blonde girl as another lead vocalist. We had me, a rapper named Swish, and then he wanted a female vocalist, and then the rest is history. I ended up dating this vocalist, and then we got married later out in Florida. And she's originally from Pensacola, but she was out.
No way.
Yeah. So my in-laws actually live here in Pensacola still.
What?
That's really cool.
Okay, that's wild.
So you and Kate, your wife, you got married in 2014, and I know you told us that was a real pivotal moment, in the career, and she was kind of one of the people that helped influence you to get into real estate. So
yeah.
So I'm going to pause you there because I'm really curious. Now, when you and Kate came to Pensacola, was that what got you here to Florida? Because a second ago, it sounded like it was the music.
So it was the music. Kate agreed to come along because
I love it.
Steve Morse, who was my guitarist's father, he was still touring, on major record labels. Definitely a great, connection to have in your band, and can, at the very least, give you very constructive feedback and some great advice. So he's out in Ocala, Florida, and he has a studio out there, his home base. Yeah, and so we thought, well, and I think the bass player's dad lived in Destin at the time. And so he said, well, why don't we move out closer to Steve and maybe we can grow our skill set and see, and he could help us out a little bit and coach us some. So that was kind of the motivation to get out here. And of course, the music scene was so much better out in Florida. Vegas, a lot of people like to visit, but they mostly want to get drunk and hear music they heard years ago, like, cover bands, like my parents were in the 90s, top 40. They don't really want to hear original music. And New World Martyr, my band at that time, was all original music, progressive rock, alternative rock, very just original. We played a couple of covers just for fun to get the crowd going, but it wasn't our thing. Sure. So we moved out to Florida to do that. We landed in Fort Walton Beach in like a house, and I got married in October of 2014. My wife was working as a cocktail waitress at the Paris casino pool, and her contract ended in December. So she went back to Vegas for a couple of more months to finish up her contract. Cocktailing by a pool is great money especially for the ladies, man. Tips are insane. So
especially for a knockout blonde.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's union out there. So they make like $20 an hour while making those tips. So it's a great job. Yeah. So she went back up for a couple of months. I lived with the band while I was kind of looking for a place for her and I to get. And she moved out. We started DJing at this bar in Fort Walton Beach on the side. I did actually to make some extra cash. And the owner decided he wanted to get out of it and said, "You and your wife are from Vegas. Would you like to take over this restaurant/bar?" And I thought, well, I've just got the band here. We're working on stuff. Might as well do something. And so we took over this bar. Turned it into a restaurant, called it Pumpkin Drublick. Almost a dirty name in Fort Walton history, but yeah. It's supposed to be an Irish venue with good food. We built a huge stage, painted the Irish flag across the ceiling. I mean, a huge room. We built chandeliers out of Jameson bottles and different stuff. It was yeah, man, it was cool. There's a tragic story that goes along with it, but I won't get into that detail now. But we ended up, my wife and I decided after that venture, we wanted to I had talked to the band. I said, look, we need to be closer to where there's more shows happening. my wife and I felt like we wanted to be in an area where she might have some more opportunity than Fort Walton Beach. I felt a little small and restrictive after being in Las Vegas.
Sure.
It was still nice, but just a little back in time, so to speak. It's a slower pace.
Way different than Las Vegas. Night and day. Because I grew up over there, so yeah, I definitely understand.
yeah, you get it. Yeah. So in fact, the Fort Walton Beach, I don't think the crowd was quite ready for what we were doing. We were told by the fire marshal during our inspections opening the restaurant, like, you guys need to slow down. We don't do things that fast out here. You got big dreams. You just need to slow down. I blew my mind. I'd never heard anybody say that in Vegas. It was like, move over or get run over, like go, go, go. So, yeah. So we moved down to Clear Lake. That's Clearwater. Sorry. Clear Lake's where I used to live. Clearwater. We moved down to the Clearwater, St. Petersburg really area. My wife and I told the band, I said, we need to get into a bigger city, play more shows. So they were going to follow, but then I kept commuting up here to the Panhandle for practice, rehearsals, all the stuff. And they never quite moved down. And I ended up quitting the band at that time. And so then the funny thing is they moved down like 6 months after I quit. Don't know why they did that, but yeah. And then I moved back to Las Vegas once more in 2019 before I moved back to Pensacola in 2020, where we bought our first house.
Nice. Okay. Nice. Not a bad year to buy a house.
I had no idea what kind of year it was, to be honest. I'd moved back out to Las Vegas in 2019 because my dad had a dental lab out there, and dental had taken a huge shift due to technology. They could now, instead of, if you want to make a denture, dental lab, you make crowns and dentures, by the way. I just say dental lab and I expect people to know, but that's what the product is. We make dentures and crowns, bridges. So my family mainly specialized in removable dentistry, which is dentures and stuff like that. So I went out there because at the time technology had advanced so much that dental technology was now moving into computer. You could print dentures. You could design stuff on the computer instead of wax and stone, and acrylic, like the way we used to do stuff back in the day. So me being a little bit younger, of course, than my father and understanding technology, I thought it'd be a great opportunity to move out there, join with my father's lab. There's a lot of dentists in Vegas. It's a great market. And I could take things digital. Well, as you know, 2020 COVID hit. And one of the things is like, nobody knew how to move forward. So how do we safely care for patients? Can they come in? Do they have to wear? We didn't even know what like safety precautions. Nobody knew, like social distancing. All this stuff was just stuff that they were throwing out there. It's like as you remember, like nobody knew what was happening. Nevada was getting very restrictive. So unfortunately, from my wife's grandmother, who was a great lady, she passed away at about the same time. And my wife had gone out for a few months to be with her grandmother and take care of her at the end of her life. And so her grandmother had left my wife a little inheritance. And my wife said, you know what, we should get a house in Pensacola. And I thought, well, okay, we've never owned a home. We've rented. We've been married for 5 years at this point or so, or just about. And we've moved every year consistently into a new lease. And I thought, well, okay. So she just calls up one day. I've looked at all these houses with my mom. She's still in Pensacola at this time. And this is the one I want. I'm showing it to you. And she signed that day. And we paid $109,000 for it on F Street. And it's like kind of close to Garden Street here in Pensacola, for those who are familiar. And that's nice. What we call the alphabet soup, right down there. And the alphabet letters are notoriously bad, I guess, back in the day before I lived in Pensacola. My wife told me stories of, you just didn't go down there unless you knew somebody. You get rocks thrown at you if you weren't a part of the neighborhood. And so that all changed in recent history. I had no idea that 2020 was the start of a big upswing in the real estate, basically topping out in May of 2022.
Yeah. And it was no one knew what was coming. So I remember at the beginning of COVID, I had a condo under contract. And then whenever the governor paused short-term rentals, I used that time. I renegotiated my contract and actually ended up buying my condo with a $10,000 discount.
That's great. But it
was all totally because no one knew what would happen. So it was kind of like, hey, I was still comfortable buying it if I got a discount, knowing that would, levy out the cost. But yeah, it was kind of like, and that's kind of actually something everyone should kind of take note right here in the episode, that when stuff was happening, like how COVID was in 2020, something brand new, black swan event that no one knows what was going to happen. Those are the times where, sometimes the risks you take pay big later. You don't
100%.
know. It could have just as easily went the other way, but usually when times get tough and people get nervous, is a great time for people to buy and to negotiate a better deal.
I mean, I think anybody can pretty much Google this, but there was a whole wave of new millionaires that were made from the 2008, 2000, that whole time there, because, what I didn't realize at this time, I didn't realize how the market was. I wasn't familiar with real estate, but now I know, after being in it, that there are investors out there that they're screaming to buy during these times because they're going to get them loan. They know that real estate's going up. So, when you turn on the TV, it tells you very bad advice. Actually, they fear monger. They tell you don't buy. You don't know what's going to happen. Da da da. Well, let me tell you, if it's a bad time, that could be, like you said, it's a very good indicator that it might be a great time to buy. Fear and uncertainty in the market usually causes people to hold on to their money. They don't want to spend, and then prices drop. Right?
Do the opposite of whatever the money channel tells you to do.
Yeah, I love it. That's actually some really solid advice right there from Sam.
Yeah.
Okay. But
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No,
I was just gonna
F Street, because I think that's really good. But go ahead. We'll pick that up in a second.
Well, I was just gonna say one area there, and this is also, you got to and a good thing for people to remember is there is a little bit of luck in this, but really with the real estate, it's pretty safe. It's kind of like gold's number one for investment if you ask ChatGPT, and then the second thing I'll tell you is real estate right now. But at any rate, because it was our first purchase in 2020 and we were at the beginning of that upswing, I didn't realize it, but when you're new at anything, you're going to do what? You're going to make mistakes, and mistakes cost us money in real estate, as we know as investors. So being in a market where you're at the bottom, and and things are, or at least things are still moving up. I don't know if I was necessarily at the bottom, but I was still at a point where things were going up tremendously when we bought in 2020 and met all the wrong contractors or handymen at first to help us along with the projects, and had to pay 3 times to have a shower installed type thing. That provided us with buffer to where at the end of our first deal, we still were profitable. I mean, it was really nice because things were just moving up. My point is, you could buy stupid at that time and make money. Yeah. Right now, what we're sitting at the, that would kill somebody. You can't buy stupid right now.
Yeah, gotta buy smart now.
Yeah, you cannot take that kind of hit like we did. But so I'm very grateful for the timing. It was a great time to get in and get my chops, get beat up a little bit, but I could still, at the end, I was profitable.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, that's sick, because I kind of want to dive a little bit back into that deal. So you guys went before Walden, cruised back to Vegas, then timing brings you back to Pensacola, working on this deal, knockout deal, 109 grand on the letter streets, which now we know is like crazy appreciation. Now, when you say this is 109, you wanted to buy it, was it prepped, ready to go, or were you guys? Was it a project?
Man!
Because I'm sure the listeners are pretty interested because I think between us three, I think I know the answer, but I think it's really a really good thing to highlight here on kind of getting into these first deals. And you make all these great points of at that time and at certain times, wherever the market trend is, you can hop in and buy almost into that appreciation. But right now you have to buy smart. But if you are buying smart, things can really go up and to the right. And so tell us a little bit about that deal, how you made the deal, how you locked it in. It sounds kind of like Kate was like, hey, this is the deal no matter what. So that's all. I mean, sometimes that's really great, because a lot of times I have analysis paralysis where I kind of looking at so many deals that then I'm like, I don't really even know if I want this deal at all. And then I was like, dang it just went under contract when I literally had the contract prepped. What am I doing?
Right. Yeah. Well, as you remember, during that time, there was a lot of wholesalers and investors out there making stupid offers, and I mean, you'd buy probably, and I wouldn't have known this at the time, but looking back, what I would imagine experienced investors that weren't that were coming off of lower prices, the kind of offers they were making were actually getting bombed by inexperienced people like myself and other wholesalers who'd just gotten in and were making stupid offers, but still winning because the market was just gangbusters. At the time, my wife found that. She actually went the traditional route and got a real estate agent and kind of told her we wanted to fix it up. And I have to compliment my wife here. She's got an incredible vision. She should be an interior designer. She just has that eye. She can look at something and she can see the potential for what it could be. So
awesome.
This place was really rough. I mean, it was built in the early 1900s, above grade. And for those who are listening who maybe aren't from this area or don't know yet, new to it, here in Florida, we have above grade houses. So they're built on a kind of an outer wall foundation. And in the early 1900s, they would just run supports across from foundation wall to foundation wall, even if it's spanning like 20 feet. The regulations were different. So there's a lot of those above grade houses here. This was one of those. It had old heart pine flooring, great. And for those who don't know, this is old lumber. I mean, the lumber in these homes is actually really, really good. It's so hard that people used to, when they try to drive nails into these things, they'd bend their nails. The wood was so hard. So it was kind of like a good buy in that regard. But on the other hand, everything needed to be done. It was a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and it was a kind of a shotgun style traditional home. If anybody wants to look this up on Google, by the way, it is 118 North F Street. F is like Frank. Pensacola, Florida, 32502. It's currently an Airbnb. We have it on Zillow, but it's been doing so well as an Airbnb that if we don't get full asking, I'm going to keep it. In fact, I really don't want to sell it now. I started wanting to sell it, and now I don't want to sell it. So, but anyways, what's funny is
sometimes just chatting about a deal just refire you up, you know?
I know. I'm getting excited as we're talking.
I know. I can tell. That's what I'm loving about it, man.
Yeah.
And if I was you, I had a house on M Street. I wish I didn't sell it.
Really? Yeah.
That's my 2 cents, dude. You're like, I know it's probably crushing on Airbnb if you didn't want to do short term or if you wanted to turn it over to a property manager or you just didn't want to do it with a headache. Dude, right now rents are insane. I know you're well versed in the space, but dude, like in the latter streets, you're still getting crazy price per square foot on rentals. And so it's like, dude, you got in, entry's nice. Let this market kind of correct itself. Don't list it right now. Where you're gonna have to do these crazy incentives, right? You know, but
well, plus you probably have so much equity that the tax hit you'd might as well just do a cash out refi, because you didn't have leaving the equity in.
And we're talking him out of his deal, out of his decision. My bad. I didn't mean to.
No, actually, everything you're saying is absolutely 100% right. In fact, we've already cash out refied on it. We pulled like a couple $100,000 years ago on it.
That's
so
awesome.
And I think we owe probably like, just being really transparent, I think we owe like $240,000 on the house after pulling out our cash and stuff back out. And I mean,
dude, that's awesome. I love your transparency too. And if I can ask you what you guys use that to keep building your business with the cash out, because I'm sure if I was listening, I'd be like, oh, what did he do? He had this awesome flip, awesome renovation. He lived in it. It was their first purchase. Now he's telling me he made a couple $100,000 on a cash out. What are they doing? Like,
right.
I'm sure that definitely, help propel into everything that you guys have right now rolling.
100%. So to kind of back up a tiny bit, when we first bought the house in 2020, it was February of 2020. And 2 weeks later, we got lockdowns issued. And you own some food
businesses
here, Sam. You remember restaurants?
I opened up my Pensacola store in 2020.
What's funny is I remember that. I remember watching your store open because I was over off of F Street. I drive down to Taco Bell and Popeye's Chicken off of Navy, and I saw you building your fast. It was like, and it caught my eye because it's for those of you who probably watch the show, Sam owns Clean Eats, but for me, it caught my eye because I'm going to Popeye's Chicken and Taco Bell, and there's this place across the street that's Clean Eats, but it's fast food, and I'll admit, Sam, I thought you were a scam at first when I saw you open up. I'm like, oh, fast food, that's like, there's no way.
Now you saw my weight loss photos, so you know.
Yeah, now I've seen your weight loss photos, and one of the
Yeah.
investor guilds that we're all members of, the owner who started that in 2013, who now lives out of state, orders food on the regular from Sam to have it delivered because it's that good. So I gotta say, I am humbled, and I was wrong to think it was potentially a scam. I couldn't marry fast food and healthy eats. I just was like, clean fast food. And I came from the West Coast, and those guys are pretentious. They're stuck up. They think they know everything about healthy food. And I will say the West Coast really did introduce me to some good ideas, like about what is good food and isn't good food. And I'm not saying they don't do that out here. That's just where my experience was. But I never thought fast food and clean eats went in the same thing. So hats off to you, man. That's awesome.
I definitely appreciate it. Yeah, no, we're a healthy food with a fast twist. So, but
that was so massive because we usually do a big shout out to Clean Eats, but I think it took care of itself on this episode.
Right on. Hey man, well, it's a treat.
Yeah. Thanks, dude. No, I mean, I love getting natural shout outs. So definitely appreciate it. But talking back to that first flip. So that first flip, it seems like that's what opened the door. This is that moment you realize like that this could be your full-time job. Is that right?
So it kind of evolved into that. So we 2020 bought it February. 2 weeks later, mandates hit. And the day before those lockdowns hit, my wife and I had just got done ripping out the whole kitchen. And I mean, if you've never seen roach feces before, there was so many roaches, so much roach feces. This was a nasty house, guys. There was no central AC, window units, black mold in the window units. So my first night in there, the carpet's all been torn out, original hardwood floors, but we still got tack strips around the edges. I'm sleeping on an air mattress. I don't want to run the AC. Thank God it's February because I'm not going to breathe in black mold out of these units. And so we did something at the time we didn't know was called, but it's called house hacking. And I definitely recommend it. You guys know what I'm talking about, I'm sure. But I recommend it.
House hack master back in college.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I recommend that to any people who are looking into getting into investing. Live in what you buy at first if you can. And so we did that. We went from paying rent, right? And now we've bought a house outright cash, thanks to what my wife was able to get. And then we started putting in our own money to fix it up. And we actually, it took us a couple of years to do the first one. And during that time, I ended up working for a law firm as an account executive, and I was having to do some traveling. And so I thought, well, we need to figure out how we're going to monetize on this. My wife had talked about Airbnb because that was very popular. And so I started listening to books. And hey, what's everybody's first book? Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I think, like that they listen to, and they get into like trying to figure out how to make money. So
Rich Dad shirt right now.
Yeah, there you go. See, I didn't even know you were wearing that. So,
yeah.
But I downloaded the auto. When I say I read books, I listen to books because I don't have a lot of time to sit down and read, and I'm a slow reader. I have to read things over again for whatever reason to try to comprehend them. But when I listen, I'm just fine. So, listen to a lot of Audible. I listen to Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Then I listened to the ABCs of Real Estate by Rich Dad, like Robert Kiyosaki and one of his partners. And then I got introduced into BRRRR, B-R-R, the BRRRR method, by rehab, rent, and refinance, right? And then repeat. That was the BRRRR method. Yeah, repeat. So that got my attention. I was like, wait, so you're telling me you buy a house, you put all this money into it, then you take a loan, get all your money back, essentially. So now I'm sitting with my money in my hand again. And I've rented that out and I'm getting money. And then I take that and I just repeat the process. It sounded awesome. But a couple things were happening that I didn't know. Like, I mean, number one, I'm in the middle of a market that's going way, way up. And then it's about to peak out right at the end of our remodel and start to come down a little bit. But, people are always slow to catch up with what's really happened with the market. Now we know where we are. So BRRRR didn't really quite take off like I thought it would, but we ended up going back and forth. And then I read books on Airbnb, and so we could never decide what we're going to do with the F Street house. Ended up long-term renting it for a year. And then this last year, we decided, well, we ended up getting into a few more projects, and we were low on cash, and we thought, well, let's decrease our footprint in order to get more solid, get some money in the coffers, and then the next year we'll increase again. And we put the F Street house on market. It wasn't moving, as you could probably guess, at least not for the price we feel we want for it after all the work. And we've done a lot of upgrades. We've future-proofed this home, guys. It's like got everything. It's even got an electric car charger out there. So, but at any rate, we decided we'd long-term rental. Then after that, we put it on the market. It wasn't selling. So my wife thought, well, I'll put it on Airbnb. And my gosh, it started going like gangbusters. Our mortgage was like $2,200 a month on the place because we refied twice. And that's just, I won't go over the second refi. It was to try to get another FHA loan on a different place. What do they call that? A 203K or the one where you can remodel and get a loan. They give you a little extra remodel. The house, actually, this East Hill house, I tried to do that with that. So I took a bad loan on the F Street house. See, another reason to have equity. You can take a bad loan and survive it. So I refinanced that to open up my FHA possibilities to try to get a 203K loan out here. It didn't end up working. We ended up going owner finance on this house that I'm at right now. But now we're making enough off Airbnb where that mortgage is totally doable. We're very profitable in comparison. After that one house, this weekend actually goes up on Airbnb itself. And we have a couple of long-term rentals. We got a duplex, and then we have another house in Cantonment that we're long-term renting. And then we have one in Sanders Beach that we've owned. Last year in October of 23, I started my wholesaling business. And so we bought in March of 24, I believe it was, we bought a house, owner finance, and sub two, a combination, a hybrid deal. And I know these are kind of some weird terms for some people, but stick around. You'll hear a lot more of this. And but Sanders Beach, we got a house there. It's a 3-bedroom, 3-bath, 2,000 square foot house, 1 block off the bay by the yacht club. And we're just starting the remodel. Finally, we got a private money coming in to help us flip that, and we're going to turn that into an Airbnb hopefully by this Christmas.
Dude, awesome. I love it. I love that area.
Isn't it nice? Dude, it's so cool. It's like 3 hidden blocks that nobody knows about. Well, unless you're from here.
Cypress Street, dude. You just take it.
Yeah. 1400 Cypress Street, man. That's where I'm at. Right on the corner of G and Cypress. So it's really cool. A lot of new builds in that area. Right across the street, you got 2-story homes that are just big, and we've got peeks of the view from the corners of our lot. Our peeks of the view. We got peeks of the bay. On our from the corners of our lot, so that's kind of nice. You can see the sailboats go by pretty much all times of the day. It's a beautiful spot. So we're really, really blessed to actually find that. I got that off of cold calling for my wholesaling. So anyway, yeah, I digress. It just kind of evolved, and I honestly didn't expect this. I didn't in 2020. I would have never thought. My parents said it. Oh, you're going to go do real estate now. You're going to become a mogul. And I laughed, and we're not moguls. We're not moguls by any means, but I never thought. I'm not quite 40 yet. I'm 39, but I didn't think I would have, about we got 6 stores, 5 properties, some long-term, short-term stuff going on, and I didn't picture this happening. And then one day, I think probably wasn't until 2023. I just or 2024, because we've been working so hard and everything. I just felt like money out.
Dude, I love it, man. I want the listeners also to take a second to say, like, dude, you bought your first property, never in this industry, in music, in 2020, where we had a worldwide pandemic.
Yeah,
dude, and we fast forward, just 60 months later, dude, you've got a ton of properties. You're running successful businesses in multiple areas that are all vertically integrated. Like you have wholesaling that provides the cash flow, quick cash into flips. And then you have long-term cash flow with long-term rentals plus short-term rentals. And then all of that is just kind of like this awesome cycle that you built in less than 5 years. And I just love to see the trajectory. And I also love to kind of point these things out for the listeners that are here, that you guys don't know what the next, honestly, 12 to 24 months hold for you. If you can find that deal, kind of like going back way earlier where you said, right now you have to buy smart. But if you take the time, you're analyzing these deals, dude, that one deal like you guys got on F Street allowed you guys to then capitalize it and knock down 3, 4, 5 more deals off of that one.
One great deal can change your entire life.
Change your whole life, dude.
So it only takes one. I mean, and to just emphasize what you said, I want people to realize that, because what, maybe some of the creativity background I had is great, but I don't have a lot of, I didn't have financial literacy, at the time. I didn't understand. I guess being creative was almost a detriment, because when you're a musician, you're always trying to write a song that people are going to like, but you have to be original if you're an original musician. And so you're trying to basically reinvent the wheel. What I love about real estate is there have never been more millionaires made from anything else, like as many as, at least, as there have been in real estate. And real estate, you don't have to be a smart guy. Look, I'm not a smart guy. All I had to do was look at other people and what they were doing. I didn't have to reinvent the wheel. I didn't have to be original. I could look at what other people were doing and copy it. And we live in such a wonderful time. When I would go to the library as a kid, we would have to use the Dewey Decimal System, and we had to pull out cards to find where we wanted to get our book from and read a book. You didn't.
Yeah.
We had VHS tapes. You had to rewind it to watch the content over again. There wasn't no YouTube, just an algorithm that just pumps you with information once you get started. You type in wholesaling in YouTube and you're logged into your Google account. Guess what you're going to get in your feed? It's just going to automatically play. So people can absolutely do this and do it way better than I did. I mean, you can hear people in 5 years, they've got like 25 properties, 50 I've heard crazy stories, 100 properties, 100 doors in 5 years, that people who just, and they have backgrounds like they were in prison. They were literally in prison, got out. Nobody would hire them. And then because of they got that on their record, and using real estate and following these things that you can find on YouTube. I mean,
why do we have to get so personal, man?
Actually, that's so funny. I was referring to, I think it's Robert Greene. You probably know who I'm talking about. He's the Burr guy, big Burr guy. He was, and Robert, I'm sorry if you've never been in prison, and I'm tainting your.
Actually, he was a cop. He was a cop. Robert
Greene was a cop. That was a cop. There is another guy that is an ex-con who did the same thing that Robert did. You're right.
Yeah,
Robert.
No, the reason I was joking with you is I'm that same story. I had the marijuana business back in the day that had to do 3 years over, and again, real estate brought me back, to be a success story again,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh man, look at. I mean, it doesn't that suck? Now they got like legal THC shops everywhere.
I mean, let's not even go down.
Yeah, we won't go down that route. But look, like you can, most people would say that, that I got to get that time back, and you accelerating it. Now it's like you're probably further ahead than people your age who stuck in the 9 to 5, route, didn't go through those.
Yeah, I think you make a great point, because just speaking on my own story a little bit, anyone listening, I'd be happy to share my story. I got in trouble for some marijuana back in college and had to go do 3 years in prison over it. But whenever I came home, I had such a chip on my shoulders, because I felt like I let my family down. I felt like I felt like I was a fuck up, and I needed to prove my worth to everybody. So yeah, the books were there. The same books you said that you read, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the Burr book, I read those. I applied what I learned, and I saved, and I had to work my ass off and save. I saved and sacrificed, but that first deal I bought that I got when I came home, 20 months later is when I was able to do a cash out refi and pulled 80 grand out of that. Well, it still paid for itself. And then that's what got me into my first flip. That's what got me into Burrs. That's what got me into more flips. And so that's my story, like compressed in, short couple minutes, but just to kind of double down your points on, that if you listen to the information, this podcast, these books you're recommending, take action, it's very possible, so. Well, man, I think we're hitting a good time to kind of wrap up part one and get into part two. I'll hand it over to Will to kind of give you guys the last things to finish up on this one before we take it over.
Yeah, man, dude, lots of fun. I can't wait to dive deep into the wholesale rookie, understand a little bit more about who he is, how the business operates. So always, like you guys know, part one's getting to know our guest. Obviously, he's the man. Thank you so much for being on this first episode. You guys all know part 2 is all about the nuts and bolts, getting into the business, how the business works, what those vertical integrations are, diving a little bit into a couple of these subjects, which if you've listened to past episodes, you might know, but I really like how we've teed them up, written some down, like owner finance, hybrid deals, subject to wholesaling in general. We're going to kind of break all that down for you. But man, dude, before we go, where can everybody find you? What's the best way to get in touch with you? And how do we get more deals from you and to you?
Absolutely, man. Well, number one, pardon me. I have connections all over the nation. So if anybody's got a deal anywhere locked up and needs to move it, let me know. My email is Chris, CHRIS, at homebuyersco.com. Buyers is plural. So that's plural. So that's HOMEBUYERSCO.com. My website's down today, but it'll be back up at the end of the day. I'm doing some changes to it right now, but normally it's always up. But
it'll be up by the release then. Yeah.
And also, Facebook guys, Chris Beckman, look me up. I'm in Pensacola, Florida. I'm starting a YouTube channel that's called The Wholesale Rookie. So that'll be another way to connect with me in the future. I want to help teach people the skill set of wholesaling. So hopefully it can change your financial life like it did mine. But I would love to hear from anybody, even if people just have questions. I don't know everything, but I know enough to tell you, at least from my experience, how to get a start and maybe fill in some of the gaps. So thank you guys for having me on. This has been great.
Dude, 100%. Sam, where do people find us? What do we do? What do we like to do?
Definitely. So guys, please check out our website, theeliterealestatepodcast.com. We post our episodes on there. That's a great place where you can contact us if you want to be on an episode, if you want to send us a deal, if you are looking at a deal in your community and you want us to help you analyze it and just kind of give you our perspective, we'll be happy to take a look. There's no charge. We're just here to help. Also, if you want to sell us a deal, Will and I are actively buying lots in the Escambia County area. That's the area around Pensacola, Florida. So if you have any lots in this area, know anyone has some lots in this area, buildable land, we are looking for it, and we are actively buying lots every single month. We probably every month put several under contract, close on 1 or 2, and we're doing this steadily every month. So have any deals around Pensacola, please send them our way. And then if like I said, check us out, theeliterealestatepodcast.com, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Elite Real Estate Podcast.
And while you're at it, go ahead, check out the Wholesale Rookie YouTube as well, and send him a subscribe if you're already on YouTube. And like Sam said, we're here to help. If you guys are new into wholesaling or are vets, but you don't really like handling land, something that we've been doing a lot is partnering with pretty much, I would say, a large majority of wholesalers in our area. And I do not mind hopping on a call with you. I just did one yesterday where I was talking to a guy who had like 2 or 3 lot leads. We talked at length for about half an hour on kind of where they're at, what makes them buildable, what doesn't, where those offers should land. So if you need some help, we'll definitely do that for you too. So
yeah, and give my partner a little, some credit. Everybody in the Pensacola area knows him as the land guy. So he's the guy that basically can analyze a lot in a couple of minutes and let you know if it's buildable or not, to a degree. So definitely, Will can definitely help you out if you're looking at, trying to, build on your lot. So definitely reach out. We're a resource and we love to help. But guys, we can't wait to see you on the next episode of the Elite Real Estate Podcast. Tune in for part 2. It's going to be even better. So we'll see you guys here later this week.
Let's go. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, guys. See you then.